Hi there, Professor Monty again, and let's look at some compound interest examples. So we're using the compound interest formula, A equals P times 1 plus R over N to the NT power. Now, first problem, suppose we deposit $10,000 into an account paying 14% interest compounded monthly. How much will we have in the account in 20 years? So we want to know how much we'll have or how much we will end up with. So we're looking for A, the amount at the end. So A equals, well, P is the amount we begin with. It's called the principal. Well, that was the $10,000 we deposited. Times 1 plus R is the interest rate, 14%, change that to a decimal, 0.14, divided by N, the number of compoundings per year. Now go back to the previous video I made prior to this where I talk about what all the letters represent. I'll put a link to that at the end of this video if you need to be able to find that easily and go back to that. So N is the number of compoundings per year. They said it's compounded monthly. Well, there's 12 months in a year, so N is 12. And it's raised to the N times T, so N is still 12 times T, which is the time, which is 20 years. That's my formula. That's what I'm going to plug into my calculator. Now, a couple things to talk about when you plug this in your calculator. Here's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to plug in the 10,000. I can just put the left parenthesis. The calculator knows if you put a number then a parenthesis, it's going to multiply because there's no other operation there. So it's going to multiply automatically. 1 plus, now my calculator doesn't have a fraction key. So I'm going to put 0.14 divided by 12, then close my parentheses. Then I need to raise to the power. On my calculator, it looks like this. Some calculators look like y to the x, and some look like x to the y. It's going to be one of these three that you use to raise it to the power. Now, the other thing that most people, if they mess up, here's where they mess up. They don't put a parentheses around the 12 times 20. That whole thing is the power. So put an open parentheses, 12 times 20, close the parentheses and equals, that'll give you the right answer. If on your calculator, when you raise to the power, it actually puts it up higher as an exponent on the calculator, you don't need the parentheses, but it won't hurt to have the parentheses. If it, just like on my calculator, it does this caret, they call it, and then the left parentheses, but it doesn't raise it physically up in the screen, then I have to put 12 times 20 in parentheses. Okay, so anyway, let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to grab my calculator. All right, so just the way we see it. 10,000, left parenthesis, 1 plus 0.14 divided by 12, close parentheses, raised to the power, left parentheses, 12 times 20, close parentheses equals, and I get $161,000, 802, and then to 2 decimals, so the nearest penny, 70 cents. So make sure you can get that same value. Now, a couple things about this. Notice if we want to find out how much interest we earned, it's the total amount minus what we originally deposited, $10,000. So notice if I take 10,000 away from that, $151,802.70 was all interest earned. So we can gain a lot of interest, especially if we have a long time horizon. Okay, so that's the idea. That's the straightforward one if we're looking for A. What if we're looking for P? So this time we don't know what we start with. How much do we need to deposit in an account? So we're depositing it now, that's P. We're looking for P. Earning 5% compounded annually to have $300 in 2 years. Same formula, but this time we know A. So A is what we end up with. We end up with 300. P we don't know. 1 plus, well, R is the interest rate, 5%, change that to 0.05. And this time is annually. Annually just means once a year. Now here's a little hint. If it's annually, you really don't need to divide by 1 because dividing by 1 doesn't change the 0.05 or any other number there. And then raised to the power n times t, 1 times, well, our time was 2 years. So again, make sure when you raise that to a power, do put that in parentheses. So I'm going to put this part in parentheses. So I'll get 300 equals P, and then all of this. So I'm going to go left parentheses. 1 plus 0.05 divided by 1. I'll go ahead and divide by 1 because it's there. Close parentheses, raised to the power, open parentheses again. 1 times 2. Close parentheses equals 1.1025. And as we've seen in previous videos or in algebra classes, to get rid of this, since it's multiplied by P, I just divide it away. And I do the same thing to the other side. And I get P equals 300 divided by, a lot of times you can just hit your last answer. On mine, it would be second answer, but I'll just put in the 1.1025. And I get $272.11. So if I start with $272.11, after 2 years, I'll get up to $300. That's the idea. So this time we had to do a division to figure out P before we just plugged everything in our calculator and it gave us A. All right, so determine what you're looking for, and then that'll help you figure out the problem.